Hello, everybody. Monday was Martin Luther King Day in the United States, a memorial to a great civil rights leader and a wonderful human being. He preached a sermon on one occasion about loving your enemies. And he said the important thing about this is that it's good for you, because hate just breeds hate, and it just multiplies and doesn't do the person doing the hating any good at all. He suggests that what's needed, the only thing that can stop an enemy being an enemy, is to make them your friend. And to win them over as best you can by loving them. I'm abbreviating quite a long sermon, of course. And one of the things involved in loving them is to recognise that the thing about them that makes them your enemy is not all that there is to be said about them. There's always more about people. And if we can identify and acknowledge that aspect of them, it makes it easier to turn them from being an enemy into a friend. But his prime technique for dealing with enemies, for fulfilling Jesus' commandment to love your enemies, is to learn to forgive them. And he says forgiveness is not, you can't say, oh, I'll forgive you, but I'll never forget what you've done. Because forgiveness does involve forgetting, at least in the sense that it stops whatever the other person has done to make him your enemy being a blockage to the relationship. The forgiveness opens up the possibility of a new relationship, providing, of course, it is received by the other person, because what you are offering is to put behind you, although you are not literally going to forget it, but to put behind you the memory of anything that has caused the hatred to develop. A very tough thing to do, very hard and painful. Forgiveness is difficult because it is very painful sometimes what people do to us and perhaps do to other people that makes us feel very hostile to them. And we need to learn somehow to enter into a forgiving relationship. And the other thing I just wanted to remember today is that this is the anniversary of the official ending of the civil war in Sierra Leone, which was a terrible war, where one of the weapons used by the rebels was to amputate limbs, hands and legs. Hands, they said, because if people have got no hands, they can't mine the diamonds and they can't vote. So they are going to be inevitably incapacitated from supporting our opponents. But when the Truth and Reconciliation Committee followed on the official ending of the war, some of these conflicts and hatreds were brought into the open. And in a museum in Freetown commemorating the ending of the war, there is an illustration of a young man who had left his village to go and join the rebels, who'd participated in some of these amputations. And after the war, he came back to his village to seek forgiveness for what he had done. And the picture shows him prostrate on the ground, surrounded by other members of his village, quite a few of whom had lost limbs, lost legs, lost arms. But they had clearly welcomed him back. They had forgiven him. And the picture shows the chief of the village reaching out to offer a blessing of forgiveness to the young man. But what you see most clearly is that what he's using to bless him is not his hands, but the stumps of what's left of his arms.